gangstas. So, I wanted to be the bearer of good news. So, I don't know, I've been thinking a lot about this, about my own personal journey of, like, manifestation, because it's such a frustrating journey, like, man, fuck that journey, but also love that journey, you know. It's, you know, we're all gonna have those days, right? Those feelings of like, man, this sucks. But also, like, are we gonna give up the work? Probably not. So, let me ease the load, lighten the load for you a little bit, and bestow upon you some wisdom I've learned. So the universe will take you very, very fucking literally. So if you say you want something, very fucking be as specific as possible, because it will take you very literally. It's like asking a genie for something, you know. It's like where, you know, you have this idea in your head, and it's like say for example, you're like, oh, I want this specific car, blah blah blah, but you don't mention that you want it running, you know. So you know, then you end up getting that specific car, but it doesn't run, or head gasket's blown, or some shit like that. Be specific. The universe is a jokester. And then another thing is, and I think this is kind of a bittersweet part of manifestation, and that is that manifestations don't go to those who deserve them. They go to those who are the most optimistic, right? I'm blinded by the light. So yeah, so that's why you see a lot of shitty people getting really good shit in life, and you see a lot of not shitty people just getting shit on by life, and a lot of that has to do with optimism. Right? Are you feeling optimistic about your future? Do you have gratitude for everything that you have and that you've accomplished, right? Gratitude goes a long way. And you know, it's like the winning effect. I just listened to an audiobook about that, where there were studies done, and the more, like, if somebody wins once, they're more likely to continue winning, right? Here, I'm gonna pause you real fast. Alrighty, I am back. So where was I? Oh yes, the winning effect. So this is actually kind of funny, and I recognize the truth in it, because you win once, and it boosts your confidence, it boosts your testosterone, even whether you're male, female, whatever, we all got it, right? But that boosts, like, the ego a little bit, right? So your ego gets a little boosted, and then the ego ultimately helps you to bring your manifestations to fruition. And that's why you don't want to kill your ego, you want to integrate it, right? You don't want it to rule your life, but you want it to also be a powerful, you know, thing to help you through life, right? It is a part of you, and it's there for a reason. You know, I wouldn't say, you know, go and become very egocentric or whatever, egotistical, but you could, you can definitely use that confidence, right? Use that confidence to your advantage. Use that winning to your advantage. I mean, it totally, you know, that's why people who already are like billionaires, when they lose their money, it's a lot easier for them to become a billionaire again, right? Because they already have that energy of winning, and they already know how to do it. They, you know, once they see that it's possible for them one time, they're like, oh, well, it's definitely possible for me every time, you know, because they know what it's like to win, to get there, right? The same with picking up babes. I mean, not like, I guess, you know, I'm trying to find a very good gender neutral term for that, because if, like, for example, you have a partner, right? then you are more likely to attract other potential partners. And it's kind of fucked. It's a little fucked, but because people, are more attracted to people who they see other people are attracted to them, if that makes sense. So, so usually people who are in relationships actually have better odds at an extra, they have better odds at getting somebody than somebody who is single, right? Because people on the inside, they look at that singleness as they're unwanted, right? Even if that's not the case, that's how it can be perceived. And then whereas somebody who's in a relationship, even if they're not all that, like, it somehow, like, it's less tangible, I guess, or whatever, but they already have the energy of having won a partner, so winning more partners is easier. They have that confidence of somebody, because if you notice somebody who struggles to find a partner, they lack that kind of confidence. And then I think, somebody who's already with a partner, they're already, they have a level of confidence. They're like, I'm with my person, blah, 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 blah. Which good for them. Kudos on them. So I have created a little recipe, if you will, for like manifestation that goes like totally against the way that I've always tried to do it. And I say tried because I was not always successful in my manifestations until recently. And the manifestations are so hilarious how they come to fruition. Like, but yeah, so let me tell you my recipe and then I'll tell you some funny stories, if I remember. So, what I do when I wake up, the way I've been doing it, I wake up in the morning, I listen to my 5-minute affirmations, sometimes up to 15 minutes, depending on how I'm feeling. The worse I'm feeling, the more affirmations I'm listening to. So right off the bat, affirmations. Then as soon as I'm done listening to my affirmations, doing my affirmations, then I will sit there and I will think of 3 major wins from the day before, right? And I'm like, alright, so yesterday, like, I managed to, like, I don't know, like, I fed myself, or I took a shower, and, little wins. It doesn't have to be big wins, but if you put yourself in the energy of, hey, I was good at time management yesterday, that was a fucking win, you put yourself in this mindset that you're winning, okay, that you are in that state that you are winning, and you just keep, perpetually, doing that throughout the day. Something bad happens, and rather than focusing on that negative thing throughout the day, instead I look to one of my wins. What did I win today? Like, and so that's actually been helping me so much, like, because gratitude is hard. Saying thank you is hard all the time, especially if you're catching yourself getting hit with like one obstacle after another. And it's not like you don't have to be grateful for the obstacles. I am oftentimes, because I feel like the obstacles are for a reason. I'm like, there's definitely a reason that I didn't make it to work today. If like, my kid couldn't find their shoes, and then I couldn't find my car keys, and then I get stuck behind a train, and I keep getting met with obstacles. Instead of sitting there going, oh my god, I'm gonna be late, I'm like, maybe there's a reason for this. Maybe I avoided a crash, or maybe because I trust divine timing. I trust that I'll get there when I'm supposed to, when I need to, and that's been very helpful. But You know, paying attention to my wins also is really helpful. Getting, you know, and that's a hard thing. And I try to, you know, I try to think, like, stay on task with them throughout the day. And then at night, I'll do like a 5 to 10 minute affirmation as well. Or I'll go as far as like up to a 30-minute meditation. Time has been rough managing it. I try to throw in my meditations as often as I can. But you know, it's not always that often when you're a workaholic. So I squeeze them in when I can, you know. I'm always in a state of reflection. You know, I get to drive for a living, so, you know, turning off the noise and reflecting isn't hard for me. I get time to do so, and to me that is meditation. So I get it throughout the day, you know. But counting your wins, counting your blessings, you know, and that's, you know, that was something that I want to start implementing, like a count your blessing type of journal thing, because I feel like that will help me to like stay on track of my wins. It reminds me of when my aunt, she was having marital problems early on in her marriage with my uncle, and she decided to do this thing where for a full year she would journal, but she would only journal the good things that happened, you know, every single day. Here's all the good shit that happened. And she would not write down, you know, all the negative stuff. And so at the end of the year, her and my uncle, you know, sat down and read her journal, and he's like, wow, we had a really good fucking year. Like, oh my god. You know, he's like, I didn't, you know, see it like this. And it's because humans have a negative bias in their brain. And so you can have the best fucking day of your life. But then, you know, you stub your toe, or you get, your car breaks down or whatever, and then all of a sudden it's the worst day of your life, right? And it's because now you're hyper fixating on the negative and on the bad shit that happened, right? And that will help you to manifest more negative and bad shit, because that's where your focus is, right? But if you're constantly redirecting yourself, right? You have to reteach yourself how to think, because the way you were taught how to think ain't it, you know? And so, and gosh, like, all YouTube has kind of like saved my mind in a lot of ways, because, you know, I don't go to therapy, obviously, but I've needed to change my mindset. I've needed to redirect the course of the way that I think, and the way that I needed to break free of my unconscious programming, you know, that's just happened in my life. So for me, having to break the mold of the way that I think and what I would choose to focus on, because that's my freedom, right? To choose what I focus on. So I'm not going to sit there and dwell on the negatives, right? My car broke down. Okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to fix it, right? And I'm gonna have to worry about that when I can worry about that, you know, see what kind of, you know, parts I need, and do the YouTube to fix it myself, because I ain't paying no mechanic to rip me off. You know, that's just me. And so, you know, I always figure shit out, though. And you have to keep that mindset that even when these obstacles show up, you'll always figure shit out, right? Like, you're in a way better spot than you would have imagined when you were at your worst spot, right? So there's this ability we have to really, you know, change our focus, change our attention, what we're giving attention to. And so, yeah, I want to do that same kind of journaling that my aunt did. I say I want to, because I haven't done it yet, you know, but I have been, you know, throughout the day focusing on my wins, you know, and noticing such a shift in the way that things have been going for me. Because, man, that shit, it can be hard, you know, especially if at first you're like, I'm not catching wins, right? And so you gotta start with like, I fed myself today. That was a fucking win. I got to eat today. I, you know, like, took a shower, did the normal stuff, right? I had gas in the tank, you know, I had, you know, focus on the things that are wins, no matter how minor they are, right? And it's like, and so when these obstacles show up, when negative shit shows up, you redirect your focus, and you're like, all right, I'm focusing on the losses, I am focusing on the bullshit, because I know I always come up. I always come up. You got to tell yourself that. I always come up. You know, you got to put yourself in the winner mindset. You're not a loser, right? You're going to come up. You're meant to come up. This is, you know, it is your birthright to come up, right? It is your birthright to break these generational curses. You know, it is your birthright to be the legacy for your ancestors, right? You are their legacy. Live up to that, right? And that's a lot, right? If you put on the weight of your ancestry and you're like, you know what, fools? I'm doing it for all y'all. I'm all y'all's legacy. And, you know, you gotta empower yourself, especially in those times where you may feel powerless, right? Especially in those times where you may feel like shit ain't working, because the only way to get it working is to work through it, right? It's the hard way. To do the things you don't necessarily want to do, but to get those outcomes that you definitely do want, right? Let's do it the hard way. Alright, anyway, this is pretty much what I have for you. Namaste, I love you all, and I will see you soon. Alright, I'm back for part 2. I just realized that I felt like I didn't go deep enough on the subject of the optimism, right? And I don't want that to be misconstrued with positivity, okay? Optimism and positivity are very different things, right? And understanding the difference between the two will really help you on your manifestations, right? You're not going to be positive all the time. You're going to have bad days. Shit's going to happen. Marcus Aurelius already told us, right? You know, you're gonna have to deal with stupid people. You're gonna have to deal with, you know, thieves and shitty people. Like, you know, you have to understand that goes without saying, that we're going to deal with people who are going to, like, trigger us, that are going to put us in negative headspaces. And sometimes it's not even other people, it's circumstances that, you know. And so, to be optimistic is knowing, alright, yes, I may have to deal with this person right now, but I don't have to deal with them forever, right? Because that's your choice, right? That's, you know, and if it's like your kids, then, you know that their attitude can only last so long, until they decide to have an attitude again, right? And kids are a little bit harder to deal with, okay? Because you can't just run away from them. you have to deal with their shit too. But in terms of like the rest of life, you know, like most things, you know, that you deal with, you know, you'll be able to not have to deal with those people anymore, or certain situations you could not go back to anymore. Some circumstances and situations you're kind of stuck in, but it's having the optimism that, like, better days are inevitable, right? In the same way that people always think that bad days are inevitable, you should be thinking good days are inevitable, right? There's an upward to every downward, right? It's all perspective. And that's really everything, you know? It's like, where does your perspective lie? If you see that you have a lot of work to do, right? One day. And you're overwhelmed by it. You're like, oh, I've got to pay this, I've got to do that, I've got to go to the grocery store, blah, 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 blah. And it's like one day you're just burdened with tasks. And that might seem like, damn, you know, like it sucks, right? Feeling burdened, weighed down by busyness and obligations, things that you don't necessarily want to do, but you gotta do, you know, doctor's appointments and all that kind of shit. And so, like, my best advice is, while you're going through that stuff, just understand, like, okay, if I have to hit the grocery store, that means, like, you know, I'll have everything I need to make the food that I want, you know. If you've got to go to the doctor, you know, be like, well, at least this will cover your tracks so you don't have to, like, see the doctor for a while, you know, hopefully, depending on your situation. Everyone's situation is different, I know. Like getting your teeth cleaned. Man, I hate going to the dentist to get my teeth. I'm gonna tell you what, I hate it. But I do it, right? And with the understanding, like, okay, if I do this and I keep up, like, my dental hygiene and whatnot, I can see them less. And so, you know, doing the hard shit and doing the shit you don't want to do is oftentimes, you know, like, it leads to the outcome that you do want, you know, like not having to see the dentist all the damn time, right? Like, you just do the dang thing, floss the dang teeth, you know. I know, shit sucks. I hate flossing, but it's like, you gotta be flossing sometimes, you know, if you want to avoid those guys. And, you know, the same is said for, like, you know, most situations, like going to the gym. Like, you may not want to go to the gym, but you want those gains, right? You want the results of going to the gym, right? So you go to the gym. Unless you're one of those that don't give a shit about all that, in which case you don't, right? Then you've got other things, you know. Whatever it is for you, right? Because everybody's got their own, you know, different things. But it's being optimistic that the work that you do now lightens the load for later, right? The work that you do now, what you do for your future self now, will make your future life a lot easier, a lot more luxurious. If you're, you know, if you're thinking in terms of setting yourself up for success, you know, you're like, okay, well, if I save this money today, like, you know, 10% of your check, every check, right? Say you decide to save all that money, and you're like, well, I could use that money, or, like, considering that one day your car might break down, and had you have made the wise decision to create an emergency fund to put away 10% of your check, and that's not going to feel like the end of the world when your car breaks down. You're going to be like, oh, how inconvenient. Okay, let me just go get my car fixed. You know? It's a lot simpler when you set up your future self, right? And I think, you know, that's part of being optimistic. Part of the knowing that things will get better and that things will be better is knowing that you set yourself up for success. You set yourself up to be able to overcome these challenges, right? You set yourself up for good days. Say you decided to stop hanging out with your friends or socializing and doing, you know, fun spending for like 6 months to a year to put aside as much money as you could. And by the end of that year, you have enough that you can take a dope ass vacation, and you can, you know, spend that money on a huge memory, and that one, you know, trip it outweighs all the enjoyment you could have gotten from, like, going out to brunches and, you know, like, and spending money at bars and whatnot, you know, whatever y'all do. You know, even like smoking weed. I know I'm known for being a pothead, but your boy's been cutting back, okay? Like, and, you know, for like responsibility reasons, you know, every now and then you'll catch me on that CBD though, you know, because gotta have my CBD. but I cut out a lot of the fun stuff, you know, I cut out a lot of and not because I don't want to have fun, obviously, but because I want to make like the most out of the fun that I have, you know. And it's like I need to balance out my hedonism with my stoicism, if you will, you know. I need to balance out my indulgence with my discipline. And when I do that, when I prioritize that, yeah. And for me, my balance of discipline to indulgence is actually not 50-50, right? Like, my perfect balance is 80% discipline, 20% party. Okay? That's it. That's my perfect balance, right? And it's because I'm 80% divine masculine, 20% divine feminine. I know my balance. I know where I am. You know, I know my stuff. So that's where I find, for my perfect, you know, homeostasis, if you will, like keeping the balance right where it works best for me, that's where it is. Everybody has different levels, you know. Some people it's 90-10. Some people it's like, you know, 30-70. I don't know. Like, we all got different balances, okay? It's not always going to be 50-50. It is what it is, okay? And when you find that within yourself, too, it's like, when you really seek to balance your shit, to, like, do, you know, what works best for you in whatever situation works best for you, then you'll notice you're already naturally more optimistic about the future, right? Because you've already saved up for your rainy day, you've already had the discipline, you've already, you know, done these things. So when these minor inconveniences, and I say minor because they are minor, and you realize that once you've, you know, been disciplined with your money, with your resources, with your time and your energy, you know, you realize how minor these things are that you've been freaking out about, right? You're like, oh shit, why was I tripping? That was not even that big of a deal. And everything works out. It all becomes fine, you know? And you just know at the end of the day that you're going, you know, that everything's going to be fine. Even if shit sucks sometimes, you know it's going to be fine because you set yourself up for success. You did not set yourself up for failure. And believe me, it took me a billion times of setting myself up for failure before it finally fucking clicked in my brain and I was like, wait, hold up. I don't have to fail, right? I don't have to be in this situation. I don't have to neglect myself financially, emotionally, energetically, temporally, you know, like, there are ways that I can take care of myself in every present moment that will set up my future self for success, right? That's gonna make my future life a lot easier, you know? And so that's, you know, that's my biggest recommendation in regards to your manifestations. Don't just sit there. It's like that song that played in the beginning of my best friend's wedding. I forget what it's called, but wishing and hoping and praying and did it. You know, all that ain't gonna do it, right? Just sitting around wishing and hoping and praying, and as much as we wanted to, right? Like, yes, but if you want to be an attractive force for positive outcomes, then you need to also be an action force to set yourself up, right, for positive outcomes. You can't keep living your life the same old way expecting manifestations to come through for you. Nah, if you want everything to change, you got to change everything. I keep telling everyone that. I will continue saying that probably for the rest of my life. But yeah, that's pretty much the advice I wanted to give. And if you guys have advice to tack onto this or something to add to this, please do. I really, I love your feedback. I love your, the conversations that we have, getting, information from you guys too. Like, it's not a one-way street here. I'm here to learn from you as well. We're a soul fam, So yeah, anyway, namaste. I love you guys, and I'll see you later.